Right, so I'm starting to lose patience now. The weather has been fantastic, and I'm stuck in the garage with putting this engine back together. So I'm going to just reassemble the rest as quickly as I can. New gasket on here. I was going to replace this breather. So it's gobbed up with silicon at the moment, and it's actually quite strong. So I'll leave that, I think. What I had thought I might do is fit this, which is half-inch BSP, and just a plain end. That's pretty much the same diameter, slightly bigger actually, but the tube would certainly fit on there. So I was going to thread that into the chain case with a half-inch BSP tap and Loctite it in place probably, and maybe even put a nut on the back side. Anyway, that was the plan, but I think I'm going to leave that for now. This once the engine is now full of oil, it's scavenging properly, it shouldn't be blowing out of here to the extent that it was. So I think that'll do for now. I'll fix that some other day. Easy enough to do with the bike in the with the engine in the bike. So I'll just deglaze the bore with a bit of emery paper, chuck that back on, put the cylinder head back on, adjust the valves, and then get the timing back together. I'll probably do that in the frame and just get the thing back on the road ASAP. So I'm getting the barrel ready to put back on. Notice it's got an M stamped on it there, letter M. Not sure what that means. There's no step, by the way. There's no discernible step at all. So I don't think it's been in use that long. Right, that'll do. I'll just flush it out, make sure there's no abrasive left in it. And I think I'm going to use just grease on here. I've obviously got a new gasket, so I think a bit of grease on either side of that should be enough to seal that face and leave it easy to get off again. Right, finally got the piston rings in, just by patience really. I haven't used a ring compressor. I have got one, but it's more trouble than it's worth really. Put a bit of oil down the bore just to keep the rings lubricated. So new gasket from the set I bought. I assume this has been annealed. Interesting, it's got these sort of lumps in the sides. I wonder why that is. Whether that's deliberate or not, looks of it. It definitely has been stamped that way. It's 4, one on each quarter. Yeah, I don't know why that would be. I'm going to assume it's deliberate though. Yeah, so I put some grease, very light skim of grease on it. Should be okay. Yeah, the original gasket definitely doesn't have those sort of lugs on the bore. I'm tempted to file them off, but I don't think I will. I'll leave them. I assume there's some reason for them being there. Maybe they create turbulence or something in a good way. So it's a very light skim of grease on there just to allow it to bed in. It actually lubricates the copper, soft copper, so that it can move against the head and the barrel. cleaned up the head to some extent. I haven't taken the valves out, they seem fine. I've pushed them up on the springs, and the seats and the valves themselves look absolutely fine. So I didn't see any point in taking it apart for the sake of it. Just wondering whether the nuts fit under there. And on the A65, you have to hold the head slightly off so you can get the nuts in. See whether that works on this one. Okay, so the nuts do fit on with the head fully down, so that's sensible. So these main nuts are 11/16. So 11/16 ring spanner fits them. Fits most of them anyway. This front one, the ring, oh, does fine actually. The ring does fit, so it's good. Chew them up gently for now. I've read the manual, and apparently I should have put the rocker box on first, but I don't really see any special reason for that. So I'll tighten the head down and put the rocker box on afterwards. The other thing I noticed, which was kind of curious, is that in the official manual it says that one of the rods is painted red if it's a B25 engine, and that for the B50 they're both identical. Apparently one is slightly longer than the other on the 250, and they're the same length for the B50. So that's slightly odd. Okay, so I'm going to use a spring balance to get the torques. This spanner is 7.5 inches long, so I reckon I need to put 51 foot-pounds, oh, sorry, 51 pounds force on the end of this. That will give me 32 foot-pounds, which is what I should have on these bigger nuts. The smaller ones I think are 18 to 20. So let's have a go at that. Yeah, that's okay. Good. So this is the stud from the rocker cover that was bent. So I'll just get these nuts back off. I'll be straightening it out. Right. So these copper jaws should let me straighten this without damaging the threads. Trouble is, of course, it's springing back. So even if I get it straight, when it's under pressure, it'll spring back afterwards. So I think I'm gonna. So that's the high spot. I'm going to bend it over slightly. That's good enough, isn't it? That'll be fine. So just torque down these rocker box nuts, which should be at 8 foot-pounds, I think. Right. Good, that'll do. The next job is simply to put it back in the frame. So while I'm reassembling this, I'm going to try and fit this silencer, which I've had for a while, but I think it's better than the American National Parks one that I've got. It certainly looks a bit more in keeping. I think it's going to be louder because it's got no baffles. It's just straight through. But we'll see how it goes. I'll have to retune the carburetor as well, of course. Anyway, the plan is to mount it on there, obviously, and just make up a strap between this P-clip that I've acquired and the mounting point here on the back, which is just a nut, or sorry, a bolt into a threaded attachment. I need to make sure this doesn't interfere with the side panels. That's the other thing. So either that goes there, or it could have to come down here. I suppose it's the shortest distance. Be a nice triangle. Let's get the side panel and see how it looks. Okay, so with the side panel on, there's plenty of room behind here, so that's no problem. So I think I'll put the P-clip there. That way this stud that's been added to the frame will stop it from any chance of falling down. And it's a nice, relatively short distance. So I'll make up a stainless steel strap and see how that goes. So I've got this piece of 2mm stainless steel. So I reckon if it's 180mm long, I can get it off this side here, just down to about here. It needs to be wide enough for this nut to be fully supported. So I guess about there would be fine. So yeah, I'll cut that out, drill some holes, and should be good to go. This is the screw that came with the exhaust. Stainless washer on it, which it didn't have before. Right, so that's installed now. Feels pretty secure. So what I've decided to try on the battery is just this very small pack of NiCad cells, which is around 12 volts. So that's just connected via the switch to the electrics. So if I turn the switch on, the rear light comes on because it's permanently on. The brake light works. So that's being powered just by that NiCad pack. So the idea is that gets the ignition going. So I get a decent spark as I kick it over from rest. Once it's running, I just turn it off and run off straight off the alternator. So yeah, that should be fine, I think. So this little pack is really light, and I'll charge it with this connector from time to time just to keep it alive. I'm not going to charge it off the bike, and it could well blow up or something if I leave it on for any length of time. But so I just charge it periodically. Should last a month on just one charge. So just adjusting the rockers. They're the cylinders top those tentacles on the compression stroke. This is actually, I'd say, a fail. Too big, but not far off. I'll do the same for the inlet, of course. Only that's 1/8 thou. So pretty much the last thing, apart from putting oil in it, checking on the levels, is to get the electronic ignition Boyer ignition system set up again. And I can see the drilling in the flywheel. So that's about right. It needs to come around slightly further. So that should be 34 degrees off top dead center. So I can set the Boyer to suit that. Okay, so I've cleaned those tapers really well, both in the end of the camshaft and on this plate itself. So stick that on at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Okay, so that's lined up now. These holes, the adjustment screw holes, are in the center of the slots, and that screw there is exactly underneath this hole in the printed circuit board. So I will attach the screws, and that should start up with a bit of luck without any problems. and I can adjust it with a strobe to get the timing bang on. So when I first fitted the head, I torqued up the nuts, the big 11/16 nuts, and indeed these smaller ones, using a spanner, ring spanner, and a spring balance to get the torque roughly right, which isn't ideal because there's a lot of force. So what I thought I'd do now that it's run once or twice, in fact, and warmed up a bit and cooled down again, I'll try and do it properly, as it were, with a proper torque wrench this time, which should be easier, and it's probably worth doing anyway now that it's gone through a hot and cold cycle a couple of times. So yes, I'm going to use the proper torque wrench to do all the nuts this time, but I need to get into those ones that you can't reach. So I'm going to use the same 11/16 spanner that I've used previously with the spring balance. I did actually have to grind a bit off this to get it to fit in the end, but that's okay, it hasn't weakened it significantly. This spanner turns out to be the right size so that there's adaptable fit in, the 1/2 inch drive, and lock in place. So I'm going to keep these in line, then I'm applying the right the torque in the right direction. But I need to down rate the torque value on the torque wrench to take account of this extra leverage. So I measured this before for the spring balance, and comes out at 7.5 inches. So I need to say down rate the reading on here to give 32 foot-pounds on the ring rather than here. This approach, by the way, is pretty much identical to what they recommend in the BSA workshop manual. They say make up a dedicated spanner with a hexagon welded onto the end. But so this is effectively doing the same thing, only they say 3 inches. This can obviously be longer than that. So 12 inches divided by 19.5 inches, which is 12 plus 7.5, is 0.6154 times 32 is 19.69 foot-pounds. So say 20 near enough. So this needs to be set to 20 to give me pretty much 32 foot-pounds on the ring. Right, everything lined up. So yeah, that's pretty much. I scarcely moved at all, so I think my spring balance technique was pretty close. Again, not far off. Straight on. And I'll just try the other side. Make sure they're the same torque. So yeah, the ones on that side are fine as well. So I just check these outer two in the same kind of way, and that should be fine. So the timing, as set so manually and statically, turned out to be slightly off. I was kicking it over and it was just giving one sort of pulse, but not really spinning up. So I've realised it was perhaps too advanced. So move the printed circuit board backplate around a bit, and sure enough, it started up first time after that. So that was good. Once I got it going, I used a strobe to just check it on the flywheel side, on the primary side, against the alternator rotor, and I adjusted it again slightly to get it bang on the. So yeah, shame that all this was pointless. Really, I could have just fixed the sump plate and avoided doing all this engine dismantling and so on. But on the other hand, it has been interesting to see inside the engine. Also, there we go, taking it out of the frame, putting it back in again. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I've discovered the big bore kit, so that's interesting to know. And the general condition seems pretty good. Certainly all the main bearings seem alright, and most of the other parts seem fine. The valves and the rockers and so on. Everything seems in reasonable condition. So yeah, worthwhile, but I wouldn't have done it if I'd had the choice, kind of thing, if I hadn't made that stupid mistake at the start. Anyway, hopefully it's all good now, and next video will probably be the results of a road test, a more extended road test. Okay, thanks for watching.